Welcome back, my dear artist. Today it's time to talk about something as complex and fascinating as time. Yes, time. But okay, let's first take a look to what is happening right now in the paper. What you're looking at are some tiny pieces of the long process of my last drawing that I called Nihil es annis velocius. Unless you speak some Latin, you will probably have no clue of what this ancient saying is about. Stick around for a little bit, I will explain it to you. In this part of the drawing, I'm using my mechanical pencil to determine which areas of the figure are gonna be in the light and which others are gonna be in the shade. At this stage, I don't really care about rendering. Remember that drawing with graphite is always a process that goes in layers. We will take care of that final look later on. Here I'm also using my blender stamp to extend the graphite and press it into the fibers of the paper. Doing that softens the form and starts creating some round illusion. But anyways, we are here to talk about time. First of all, let's all agree on some common ground. We usually think about time in a linear way. That's how our brain is designed. It would be something like the constant and consistent perception of events one after the other. So what happened yesterday, it happened already. And what will happen tomorrow, it didn't happen yet. And that illusion, if you want to call it like that, is what keeps our feeling of self together. That's one of the reasons that make people that suffer from dementia lose part of their personality and part of their ability to connect the facts. We can maybe also agree that time is not as objective as we might think. We as humans have created a very accurate and sophisticated set of measurements to calculate time. But it's very well known that time has also a very important subjective component. For example, think about this. We don't experience 1 hour of an absolutely insufferable conversation with a work colleague that we secretly despise, rather than 1 pleasant hour doing our favorite hobby. In my case, drawing is something that I love to do most of the times, and when I manage to focus on it for a fairly long time, I have the impression that time just flies. Well, not even that. It just disappears from the equation, and when I look up again, I've been drawing restless for hours. This is probably what was happening during this part of the drawing that you are seeing on your screen. I must say that I enjoyed most of the process and challenges from this one. Right now, for instance, I'm using a very soft 8B pencil to go over the darkest points of this image. Of course, all those dark spots are going to be in the first row, and everything happening in the background is going to have a lower contrast to create some illusion of depth. Don't forget that in reality we always see a higher contrast in the objects that are closer to us. I've also tried to intensify this contrast in certain points of my main figure, this floating Roman mummy, in which I want to bring the attention of the viewer. But I have to admit that that's a skill that I haven't mastered yet. And talking about mastering, time also plays a crucial role in that. Think about this. In 2008, the Canadian writer Malcolm Gladwell popularized the 10,000 hours rule. The idea is simple. In order to master any skill, you need to practice appropriately for around 10,000 hours. Let me make the maths for you. That's something like 416 full days of practice. Let's suppose that this is true. Well, Unless you are some kind of superhuman who doesn't need any sleep or food or socialization or any source of income, something of that magnitude will probably take you a few decades at least. Not everyone seems to be able to see this bigger picture, but it's undoubtful for me that one of the common characteristics that defines most of the greatest, regardless of their baseline talent, is their consistency. It's the fact that they keep practicing no matter what. If you practice the same skill over and over for such a huge amount of time, eventually you become an expert on that. But time is a variable that is frequently overlooked when we think about art. Okay, let's come back to the paper for a second. I don't even remember how long it took me to complete this background of the picture that you are seeing. I have recently learned the importance of adding the background tone in the picture as early as possible. Doing that gives us a better understanding of how dark or light we need to go in the figure to make it three-dimensional and to integrate it with the surrounding environment. For this purpose, I'm using some graphite powder and some cheap makeup cotton pads. This first layer is full of wrong spots, but I don't mind. I will go over those in later stages of the process. But coming back to our topic, you might or might not agree with the 10,000 hour rule. You can let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see your opinion. However, there is something that is crystal clear. Art is a full-time labor, and it demands a lot of practice and attention. I always like to say that art will set you free, but it might also slaves and requires everything from you first. That's the idea of sacrifice, right? And that is exactly what creates one of the biggest problems for many aspiring artists out there. We are living in a period of history in which time has become one of the most valuable resources. Not everyone is lucky enough to dedicate as much time as they would like to create or to be an artist. But again, my intention is to encourage everyone to take a look to the bigger picture. Let's suppose that you can only dedicate 20 minutes each day after work or maybe even at night to work on your art. I know, it's not much, right? But what happens if you manage to keep that habit for, let's say, 10 years? Considering that many days you wouldn't be able and some others you will practice for more than 20 minutes, after that time you will have accumulated 1,120 hours of practice. Wow! Of course, that's still far from the 10,000 hours we mentioned before, but oh Lord, imagine how much you can improve the quality of your art and how many new skills and techniques you can learn in that amount of time. If you will be able to see how good you can become in 10 years, I can promise you that you will quit whatever you are doing right now and you will take the paper and the pencil. And that is what brings us back to this drawing that I'm working at. What a plot twist, isn't it? If you are someone like me, you find yourself in the beginning of a long life process. It doesn't even have to be an artistic career. You might be wondering, should I pursue this path? Will I be able to succeed? Am I good enough? Well, unfortunately, I don't have answers, none for you or for myself. But there is something that I can tell you. Right here, right now, if you are brave enough to ignore those thoughts and to keep trying to become whoever you want to be, 10, 20, or 30 years from now, you will look back to this moment and you will be grateful that you didn't give up. And that's really the message that I was trying to reflect in this drawing. The unavoidable pass of time. How everything in the universe, no matter what, it will have a beginning and it will end at some point. We only have one life and one opportunity. So, if you are someone who thinks that art is their way, just go for it. Just start right now. It's the moment. Forget about the doubts or forget about AI or anything. And now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna take some time to reflect and to take a look to this drawing that I've just finished. If you enjoyed this video, please consider to support the channel by leaving your like and hitting the subscribe button. I will see you in the next video. And one more time, remember that art will set you free.